there is a family grieving for the loss of a son and a brother, wanting answers. And in our process, that's been a long time coming. It's right to remember that the Independent Police Complaints Commission is still investigating and is yet to report. The inquest is but the first stage. But it's also right that there are others with other grievances, some legitimate, some in relation to the government, the police, anarchist groups, all sorts of groups with other interests who attach to this and convey that message in very different ways and to some extent incite. And we saw some of that in the the hours following that initial peaceful protest outside the police station 2.5 years ago. I do not want to see that again in my constituency.
So where do we go from here? Joining me now are the founder of the Black Police Association, David Michael, the director of the charity Inquest, Deborah Coles, who's been working with Mark Duggan's family since his death, and the campaigner Pauline Pierce, who became known as the Hackney Heroine after she confronted looters during the riots which followed the killing. So Michael, obviously many people are unhappy with the verdict, but within the scope of what can happen at an inquest, that basically someone was unarmed when he was shot, but there was a gun in the vicinity, are we talking about a miscarriage of justice or just a difference of opinion from a police perspective?
I think it's very important that it's unfortunate that many people in the community and in the public will base their responses to the inquest verdict on newspaper headlines. That's all they've had to go with. I think it would be more helpful, and it's available online, the transcript of the inquest and the directions of the coroner to the jury in terms of the legal position, the evidential position, the burden required. And I think that would help people a lot more to understand why the jury came to the decision that.
So in your view, the verdict is understandable?
In my view, the verdict is totally understandable, even though we have to be very sympathetic to the Duggan family, because irrespective of how Mr. Duggan came to meet his death, they are a bereaved family, and we should appreciate and understand that.
Deborah, should the focus now be on trying to challenge or overturn the inquest verdict, do you think?
Well, I mean, that's the matter for the family lawyers. I would, however, disagree with David in the sense that I do urge people to read the transcript, because I think if one looks at the evidence that emerged during the course of that inquest, we can question whether or not this is quite a perverse and somewhat illogical finding, because the jury found very clear evidence of failings in intelligence by the police, the failure of the police to act on that intelligence. And had they done so, this tragic state of affairs may have been... The
basic principle is, whether you accept or not, that a policeman thought someone had a gun and shot him, and there was a gun around, wasn't there?
Well, I mean, the jury found, though, that when Mark Duggan was shot dead, he was unarmed. And that is a very significant finding. It is now for the lawyers to decide whether or not there are some legal challenges. But I do think that the significance of the evidence at this inquest must raise concerns with the Metropolitan Police about the planning and intelligence of these firearms operations.
I mean, Pauline, as an informed member of the public, you were shocked by the outcome.
I was totally shocked by the outcome, because it was neither either or, was it? It was a slap and tickle. It was kind of, OK, give them a bit to say, OK, we accept he didn't have a gun, but then we're saying that it was all right for him to have been shot because the police believed beyond any kind of doubt that he had a gun on him. But it was proven he didn't. So where do we go from here? There was a very big mistake made, and a life was taken because of that thought.
The coroner was clear to the jury that they had to be certain that the police officers did not believe whatsoever that there was a fear of Mr. Duggan using the gun. Therefore, the jury, in all conscience and according to the coroner's direction, were not certain. Therefore, it was very difficult for them to reach a verdict of unlawful killing.
And where do you think people who are dissatisfied, who have noted that there have been a number of other deaths of black people at the hands of police, how should the wider members of the community in Tottenham respond, do you think?
Listen, right now we know that people are hurting. We know that people are very disappointed. A lot of people would have said we didn't expect anything better, in all honesty. So right now, all I say as a community leader, as a spokesperson, I say keep it calm, keep it dignified. The family's kept it dignified all this time. There are many more avenues that can be explored to get to the bottom of it and hopefully get a better understanding for the communities.
Will you be attending the family vigil this weekend?
I will be.
And you're not worried that that could turn into an incident?
I'm not worried because I feel that the people have common sense. I mean, it's just not so long ago people have been getting released from prison from the riots. I mean, that's still very fresh in people's minds. So I don't think they're so stupid to go rushing out there and causing more havoc and getting themselves in more trouble.
David Michael, the issue about the Met, and as I said, there have been a number of deaths. Is the Met getting on top of this? Is it responding in the right way?
The Met has a lot more to do, especially in terms of the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. One of the things that came out of it was that the Met Police and the Criminal Justice Service more widely needs to engender trust and confidence in the community. Clearly, this is a long way from where it should be. The Met has a lot of work to do, and there are lots of resources available to them that they're not tapping into at the moment.
How do you feel about that, the police?
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think we've also got to address the fact that there are a disturbing pattern of deaths in or following police contact where there's been evidence of either excessive use of force or disproportionate use of force or neglect, where there are never charges brought, either criminal charges or either disciplinary charges. And I think that sends a message out to the community that somehow that deaths don't matter and that the police are above the law. And that is what I think has made people so angry and so upset following this verdict, because this is not an isolated case. And I think that, you know, this is an issue for government, it's an issue for the Independent Police Complaints Commission in terms of how they investigate these cases. But I think in terms of the community, the family have called for a peaceful vigil, and they are very clear about that. The family have always wanted justice, they've always wanted accountability, not just for Mark, but for anybody else who's died in similar circumstances, and they're very clear about that message, and we must respect that.
Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you.
Three of Britain's biggest retail names